एपिसोडमा तपाईहरु स्वागत छ। म उपेक्षा तुलाधर आजकी हो। सबैभन्दा पहिला म आजको प्रमुख अतिथि डाक्टर सुरेश मानन्धर सरलाई स्वागत गर्न चाहन्छु र धन्यवाद दिन चाहन्छु। उहाँसँगको मेरो अनुभव निकै नै प्रेरणादायी रहेको छ। उहाँको सरल स्वभाव र धैर्यताले नै मलाई यो कार्यक्रम उहाँसँग गर्न उत्साह लागेको हो। हाम्रा विगतका एपिसोडहरूमा एकजना महिला र अर्को पुरुषका साथ संवाद हुन्थ्यो, तर यसपालि महिला प्यानलिस्टको समयको व्यस्तताका कारणले यसपटक फरक हुन जाँदैछ। तर सरको सहयोग र धैर्यताले मलाई यो पडकास्ट एक फरक ढङ्गले अगाडि बढाउन मन लागेको हो। र म आशावादी छु आजको यो पडकास्ट निकै नै प्रभावशाली हुनेछ। यदि समयले साथ दियो भने हामी 5 जना दर्शकहरूलाई अन्त्यतिर आफ्ना विचार राख्ने मौका पनि दिँदैछौँ, जहाँ तपाईहरूले सरसँग प्रत्यक्ष संवाद गर्न सक्नुहुनेछ। अब म डाक्टर सुरेश मानन्धर सरको संक्षिप्त परिचय दिन चाहन्छु। डाक्टर सुरेश मानन्धर नेपालका एक अग्रज तथा प्रतिष्ठित एआई वैज्ञानिक हुनुहुन्छ, जसले पछिल्लो 35 वर्षदेखि यो क्षेत्रमा काम गर्दै आउनु भएको छ। उहाँको विशेषज्ञता मसिन लर्निङ, नेचुरल ल्याङ्ग्वेज प्रोसेसिङ र मल्टिमोडल अन्डरस्ट्यान्डिङ जस्ता क्षेत्रमा छ। उहाँले सन् 1994मा युकेको युनिभर्सिटी अफ एडनबर्गबाट एआईमा पिएचडी गर्नुभएको हो। लेक्सिकल नामक कम्पनीको सह संस्थापक समेत हुनुहुन्छ, जसले संसारकै पहिलो भर्चुअल क्यारेक्टर संवाद प्रणाली विकास गरेको थियो, जुन बीबीसी क्लिकमा पनि समेत देखाइएको थियो। उहाँले युनिभर्सिटी अफ यर्क युकेमा एआई रिसर्च ग्रुपको नेतृत्व गर्नुहुन्थ्यो र 20 वर्ष बढी पिएचडी विद्यार्थीहरूलाई मार्गदर्शन गर्नुभएको छ। 120 भन्दा बढी वैज्ञानिक अनुसन्धान लेख प्रकाशित गरिसक्नु भएको छ। उहाँले नाटो भिजिटिङ फेलो युकेको हाउस अफ लर्ड्स सेलेक्ट कमिटीमा समेत सदस्यको रूपमा योगदान दिनुभएको छ। हाल उहाँ वाइजाक कम्पनीका सिइओ, को फाउन्डर तथा चिफ साइन्टिस्ट हुनुहुन्छ। साथै मदन भण्डारी विज्ञान तथा प्रविधि विश्वविद्यालयमा अनररी प्रोफेसरको रूपमा आबद्ध हुनुहुन्छ। फ्युज मसिनमा पनि एआई रिसर्चको नेतृत्व गरिसक्नु भएको छ। नेपालमा एआई अनुसन्धान र स्टार्टअप प्रवर्धनमा उहाँको योगदान अतुलनीय छ। उहाँ जस्तै व्यक्तित्वसँग आज कुराकानी गर्न पाउँदा हाम्रो लागि ठुलो गर्व र अवसर हो। अब म आजको मोडरेटर तथा प्रस्तुतकर्ता सिमोन ढुङ्गानाको पनि परिचय गराउन चाहन्छु। उहाँ प्रविधि रणनीति डिजिटल रूपान्तरणका विशेषज्ञ हुनुहुन्छ। उहाँले जन हपकिन्स युनिभर्सिटीबाट सिस्टम इन्जिनियरिङमा एमएस गर्नुभएको छ र हाल जर्ज वासिङ्टन युनिभर्सिटीमा एआई रिसर्चरको रूपमा कार्यरत हुनुहुन्छ। उहाँसँग 20 वर्षभन्दा बढी आइटी र एआईको नेतृत्व अनुभव छ। साथै नेपाल, अमेरिका र चीनमा उहाँले थुप्रै कम्पनीहरूमा नेतृत्व गर्नुभएको छ। यो कार्यक्रम भूगोल पार्कद्वारा आयोजित गरिएको हो। भूगोल पार्क नेपालकै एकमात्र पोलिङ तथा सर्वेक्षण प्लेटफर्म हो, जसले प्रिडिक्टिभ एनालाइटिक्स प्रयोग मार्फत व्यवसाय र संस्थाहरूलाई डेटा आधारित प्रभावकारी निर्णय लिन सहयोग गर्दै आएको छ। भूगोल पार्कले समसामयिक विषयहरूमा लोकप्रिय पोलहरू सञ्चालन गर्दछ, साथै विभिन्न डेमोग्राफिक्स डेटामा आधारित विश्लेषणात्मक चार्टहरू पनि उत्पन्न गर्दछ। हामीले हालै भूगोलमी नामक एक इनोभेटिभ प्लेटफर्म बनाएका छौँ, जहाँ गुगल जेमिना एलएलएम एपीआई समावेश गरिएको छ, जसले प्रयोगकर्ताले केही शब्द टाइप गरे बापत स्वचालित रूपमा एआईले पोल तयार पारिदिन्छ। भूगोल पार्कले भूगोल पार्क सर्वे एन्ड रिसर्च एप बनाएको छ, जुन स्थानीय तहमा सेवा लिने नागरिकको राय वा प्रतिक्रिया सङ्कलन गर्न धेरै उपयोगी टुल हो। यसले संस्थाहरूको प्रभावकारी मूल्याङ्कन गर्न सहयोग गर्दछ। अब यसैको बारेमा हामी छोटो भिडियो हेर्नेछौँ।
आजमा हाम्रो देश नेपालको सरकारी कार्यालय, त्यसमा पनि विशेष गरेर स्थानीय तहमा नागरिकले सेवा लिँदा कतिको खुसी र दुखी छन्। कुनै पनि सरकारी कार्यालय वा भनौँ स्थानीय तहले नागरिकलाई सेवा दिइरहँदा के कस्ता कुरामा त्रुटि र कमी कमजोरी गरिरहेका हुन्छन्, सोही कुराको जानकारी साथै नागरिकबाट सल्लाह र सुझाव प्रत्यक्ष रूपमा लिनका लागि हामीले भूगोल पार्क सर्वे एन्ड रिसर्च एप विकास गरेका छौँ। सोही एपबाट तपाईँ कुनै पनि सरकारी कार्यालय वा स्थानीय तहले नागरिकबाट प्रत्यक्ष रूपमा पाएको सल्लाह र सुझावलाई सकारात्मक रूपमा लिई तपाईँको कार्यकालमा सेवालाई सहज र सुलभ बनाउनका साथै नागरिकलाई जिम्मेवार बोध समेत गराएर सेवा दिने र लिने बीच राम्रो सम्बन्ध कायम राख्दछ, जसले गर्दा तपाईँको आगामी कार्यकालका लागि यो एप ठुलो कोसेढुङ्गा साबित हुन सक्दछ। त्यसका लागि तपाईँले भूगोल पार्क सर्वे एन्ड रिसर्च एप खोल्नुपर्नेछ। एप खोलिसके पश्चात आवश्यक पर्ने कुनै पनि संस्थाको व्यक्तिगत विवरण भर्नुपर्नेछ। व्यक्तिगत विवरण भरिसके पश्चात यो एपमा जुन कुनै पनि सेवाग्राहीले सेवा लिइरहँदाखेरि समय, खुसी र दुखी के छन् उहाँहरूले आफ्नो धारणा व्यक्त गर्नुहुनेछ। जुन धारणा कुनै पनि सरकारी कार्यालय वा व्यक्तिको व्यक्तिगत गोपनीयतालाई ख्याल गर्दै अथवा संस्थाले मात्र हेर्न मिल्ने गरी गोप्य रहनेछ।
यो थियो भूगोल पार्क सर्वे एन्ड रिसर्च एपको छोटो झलक। भिडियोबाट तपाईँहरूले यसको उपयोगबारे थाहा नै पाइसक्नु भयो होला, तर म फेरि एकपटक छोटकरीमा भन्न चाहन्छु। यो एप प्रयोग गरेर सेवाग्राहीहरूको राय सजिलै सङ्कलन गर्न सकिन्छ, सेवाको प्रभावकारिता समयमा मूल्याङ्कन गर्न सकिन्छ, कर्मचारीको व्यवहार र अरू सुधारको आवश्यकता तुरन्तै पत्ता लगाउन सकिन्छ। संस्थाको निर्णय प्रक्रिया डेटा आधारित हुने हुँदा सेवाको गुणस्तर आफै बढाउँछ। संस्थाको निर्णय प्रक्रिया डेटा आधारित हुने हुँदा सेवाको गुणस्तर आफै बढाउँछ। यो एप सरकारी निकायदेखि निजी संस्थासम्म प्रत्यक्ष प्रतिक्रिया सङ्कलन गर्न सबैका लागि उपयोगी टुल हो। अब म आजको विषयतर्फ अलिकति भन्न चाहन्छु। एआई भन्नाले यस्तो प्रविधि हो जसले मानिसले जस्तै सोच्ने, बुझ्ने र निर्णय गर्ने काम गर्न सक्छ। आजभोलि एआई लगभग हरेक क्षेत्रमा जोडिन थालेको छ। त्यसैले हामीले विगतका एपिसोडहरूमा कानुन, बैंकिङ, शिक्षा, स्वास्थ्य, सहरी योजना, मिडिया, बायोटेक्नोलोजी, कृषि जस्ता क्षेत्रमा यसको प्रयोगबारे विस्तृत संवाद गरिसकेका छौँ। अहिलेको डिजिटल युगमा एआई केवल यस्तो एउटा क्षेत्रमा मात्र सीमित छैन। हाम्रो अघिल्ला एपिसोडहरूमा देखाए चाहिँ या हामीले प्रेजेन्ट गरे चाहिँ नेपालमा पनि यसको प्रभाव कृषि, शिक्षा, स्वास्थ्य, व्यवसाय र सरकारी प्रशासनहरू जस्ता धेरै क्षेत्रहरूमा फैलिँदै गएको छ। एआईले अब नेपालमा नयाँ स्टार्टअप र उद्यमशीलताको ढोका खोलेको छ, जहाँ स्थानीय समस्यालाई प्रविधि मार्फत समाधान गर्न प्रयास देख्न पाइन्छ। र आजको यो विशेष एपिसोडमा हामी यसै यात्राको सुरुवात, सम्भावना र चुनौतीबारे नेपालकै अग्रज एआई वैज्ञानिक डाक्टर सुरेश मानन्दरसँग विस्तृत संवाद गर्दैछौँ। हामी हरेक साता यस्तै ज्ञानमूलक वेबिनार र पडकास्ट गर्दै आएका छौँ। अब म आजको छलफलको नेतृत्व गर्न सिमन ढुङ्गानालाई फ्लोर हस्तान्तरण गर्दैछु। थ्याङ्क यू।
Namaste. I'm excited. Professor Dr. Suresh Manandhar as hopefully we'll get a lot to hear from him and learn quite a bit. As an AI startup, it's not just about company matre bhanda pani overall Nepalko ecosystem like के आइडियाहरु छ के गर्न सकिन्छ त्यो कुरामा चाहिँ हाम्रो अब डिफरेंट टाइपको व्यक्तित्वहरु यहाँ हुनुहुन्छ हैन। मेरो विचारमा ऑडियन्समा पनि डिफरेंट टाइपको ऑडियन्सहरु हुनुहुन्छ। म एउटा क्विकली के गर्न चाहन्छु भने नि एउटा पोल शेयर गर्न चाहन्छु यहाँहरुसँग, जसले गर्दाखेरि हामीलाई थाहा हुन्छ कि यो यसमा भाग लिने हाम्रो ऑडियन्सहरु अटेन्डिजहरुको कुन लेभलको स्किल सेट्सहरु छ हैन। त्यसकारणले if you see the poll on your questions on your screen, if you could take part, I would appreciate it. त्यसको results म त्यसपछि share गर्छु and then I'll start my presentation. Poll को questions are AI and you. How well do you know AI? First, it's ranking 1 to 10 ma, 10 being the most, 1 being the least. First option is I am new to AI and I'm just learning about it, 1 to 2. And the second one is I have some knowledge about AI and I have used tools like ChatGPT, Claude, etc. LLM or GenAI, 3-4. Right? Third option is I am into AI and use it professionally in my field, 5 to 7 skill set level. Right? And I am an AI expert and no technical background about it. And it's greater than 7. So that's another options. And the final option, none of the above. So यो क्वेशन्समा हाम्रो अहिले अब निकै नै अटेन्डिजहरु हुनुहुन्छ। म अर्को 10 सेकेन्ड्स चाहिँ यो पोल लाइभ गर्छु, त्यसपछि जतिजनाले भाग लिनु भयो त्यसपछि म यो एन्ड गर्छु and I'll share this result so that okay अझै भोट गर्दै हुनुहुन्छ। Again, AI and you, how well do you know AI मा हाम्रो अटेन्डिजहरुको स्किल सेट लेभलहरु के छ त्यो भन्नेमा हामीले अहिले यो पोल क्वेशन्स गरेको छौं। So I'm going to end the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Looks like result हेर्दाखेरि I'm new to AI and I'm just learning about it. When it's a 1 to 2, 17%. 17% said we're just learning about it. Almost this is quite a bit. 61%, let's say, I have some knowledge about AI and I have used tools like ChatGPT, Claude, etc. भन्ने भनेमा छैन. अनि त्यसपछि अर्को 17% I am new to AI and use it professionally in my field भन्ने. So 17% 17% the professional view. अनि expert level को पनि हाम्रो 6% चाहिँ expert level को पनि हुनुहुँदो रहेछ यो attendees मा. So I'm excited. So we have a range, but seems like we are probably about the middle. अलिकति use गरेको भने. So this will be helpful, Dr. Manandharलाई पनि address गर्नको लागि हामीलाई कुन प्रकारको भन्ने. Now, after that, I want to begin again with kind of like AI startup भन्छ कतिजना हाम्रो डिफरेन्ट लेभलको भावहरू कोही स्टुडेन्ट्सहरू पनि हुनुहुन्छ कोही चाहिँ अब नयाँ के रहेछ त भन्ने कुरा पनि हुनुहुन्छ आज चाहिँ अरू भन्दा पनि स्लाइटली डिफरेन्ट अनि एआई नै बढी फोकस भएको एआई टेक्नोलोजीमै बढी फोकस भएको भएर म चाहिँ आई वान्ट टु प्रेजेन्ट अ लिटल बिट अबाउट व्हाट एआई इज कसरी सुरु भयो भन्ने ताकि फर्स्ट टाइम यदि कसैले सुनिरहनु भएको छ भने पनि के प्रकारको नलेज होस् हाम्रो यसको मल्टिप्लायर इफेक्ट बाइ द वे चाहिँ कस्तो छ भने पछि सोशल मिडियाहरुमा थाउजन्ड्सहरुको भ्यूहरु भइराछ र होपफुली दिस इज गोइङ टु बी हेल्पफुल फर द फ्युचर रिसर्चर्सहरुलाई पनि के भएको रहेछ भने वी प्लान टु एक्चुअली create some sort of like document this and create some sort of paper so that पछि गएर आर्काइभ अथवा कतैमा राखेर पनि फ्युचरमा नेपालमा कसैले रिसर्च गर्नु छ नेपालको विषयमा छ भने पनि हाम्रो एक्सपर्ट्सहरुले भनेको कुराहरु चाहिँ we want to do that as well. So I want to share this screen if you can see my screen हेरौँ है अब सबभन्दा पहिला AI को essentially डार्टमर्थमा 1956 मा McCarthy Minsky or they thought of, they came all together. That's when the whole artificial intelligence kind of came about. So artificial intelligence for a term so there wasn't a whole lot of output at that conference per se. But you're artificial intelligence for it's a common academic thinking about it. This is a term that's extra out of human fun. It's a suruba. This was 1980s when you saw an evolution of expert systems, rule-based systems or but 1997, Gary Kasparov was first time defeated by IBM को Deep Blue. Brute force AI ने use गरेर it wasn't all that advanced. The brute force ने गरेर चाहिँ आयो. अनि त्यसपछि अर्को एउटा big change is that 2012 मा AlexNet. You say this is one of the conventional neural network को if you can AI को enthusiastहरूले can tell what these are like max pooling र last मा हैन softmax ले non-linearity हरू add गरेको छ. अनि 2017 मा seminal paper attention is all you need but यो जुन ट्रान्सफर्मर मोडल आयो तिनीहरु आयो हैन त्यो त्यसपछि चाहिँ भनौं न GPT-3 हरु बर्ड पनि बाइडाइरेक्सनल एन्कोडरहरु पनि अनि लामा 2022 मा OpenAI यो ChatGPT ले 2022 को नोभेम्बर मा 3.5 निकालेपछि चाहिँ अझ एकदमै सबैको जनमानसमै पनि AI भन्ने चाहिँ त्यसपछि अझ आयो किनभने it became useful to everyone, not just academicians or scientists or researchers or whatever. This is your computer vision. This is what you see how they segmentized your computer vision or about DNA ko alpha mode ko your protein like pani garne Google ko arko त्यो पनि आएको छ हैन sparse mixer of experts or so imagine you're a child is growing up and it starts with crawling with basic logic or expert systems or then it starts with neural networks or and then it's then it starts sprinting with multimodal understanding or so अनि अब अहिले cloud platform भएर hardware हरु सबै जुन चाहिँ यो GPU को जुन चाहिँ massive progress भएको छ NVIDIA लिनेले गरेर गर्दाखेरि त्यसले गर्दाखेरि so we at that frontier of the AI is up and running. It was until this time, it was pretty much crawling. So we are just at the beginning of this AI revolution. I want to also for some of us, they are like, okay, के हो त AI को पछाडी त कुरा छ भन्दा I want to talk a little bit about mathematical foundations. About linear algebra, statistics, probability calculus, These are some of the things that that make up on information theory भयो, त्यसपछि graph theory भयो, differential equations भयो, Fourier analysis भयो, Bayesian के भन्छ statistics भयो हैन, त्यसमा prediction error के हुन्छ। अर्को यो this is also one of the यो KL divergence पनि एउटा was very important, it's especially local minimum and global के भन्छ मिनिमाहरु जुन चाहिँ यो डिफरेन्सहरु एरर घटाउनेहरु, that was also very important. It's been happening. So this is some of the math behind the scale divergence and gradient descents-हरु यो चाहिँ भयो। अब think of gradient descent चाहिँ म के भन्न चाहन्छु नि, यो gradient descent जसले गर्दाखेरि हाम्रो एरर र म्याचिङमा बढी बढाउँछ। So think of it as a केक एउटा बनाएको जस्तो हैन, कुकिज अथवा खसीको मासु बनाएको, खसीको मासु बनाउँदाखेरि नुन अलिकति बढी चाहिन्छ त बेसार अलि बढी हाल्नुपर्छ हैन, त्यो आफ्नो टेस्टको लागि चाहिँ until it's perfect हैन। त्यो KL divergence भनेको चाहिँ यो Kullback Leibler divergence भनेको essentially that's how it is. If you have similar divergence is low and it's perfect, if it's not too salty, not too high. So that's one of the mathematical foundations behind artificial intelligence. Slightly academic funny audience as Dr. Manandhar aako bhayera attendees haru bhayera, so I just wanted to refresh and give some insights in the background of artificial intelligence and what makes it work, right? अहिलेको लागि ग्लोबल एआई स्टार्टअप ट्रेन्ड्सहरु चाहिँ के देखिएको छ भने ओपन एआई को क्रिएट्स अ जनरल पर्पस ओपन एआई को, अब ओपन एआई को सँगै अरुको अब कम्पिटिसन र लार्ज ल्याङ्ग्वेज मोडल्सहरु थुप्रो आएको छ हैन। I mean, you talk about like billions, अहिले त अब अनाउन्स पनि गर्दैन, ट्रिलियन्स अफ प्यारामिटर्सहरु सबैहरु युज गरेर छ। हगिङ फेसले अर्को ओपन सोर्स इकोसिस्टम क्रिएट गरेको छ। स्टेबिलिटी आईले जनरलाइजेस इन लाइक डिफ्युजन मोडल्स लाइक stable diffusions from images from text or Coherently provides LLM APIs for enterprises for optimized for low latency NLP or tasks. Or Jasper Jasper, it automates copywriting, marketing, content, NLP. I'm just giving you this sample. You by no means I'm endorsing this, or by no means I'm saying these are the only ones. You're just to give a panoply of the things that are out there that's driving innovation at this stage in time AI Toma. Or Palantir, or your Palantir, like defense, they are quite ahead. I know about this is the future of AI soldiers or warfare. DeepSeek, but it made quite a splash, by the way. उनीहरुको अब भन्नलाई त उनीहरुले $5 million मात्र खर्च गरेर एकदम मेट्रिक्स पनि राम्रो निकाले भन्यो हैन, तर obviously देशमा स्टेटले पनि पहिलेदेखि इन्भेस्ट गरेर इन्फ्रास्ट्रक्चरमा गरेर पहिले नै चिप्सहरु लिएर आएर एनभिडिया चिप्सहरु राखेर गरेको हो। लास्ट इन्फ्रेन्स लेभलमा आएर चाहिँ अलिकति कस्ट कम भएको जस्तो देखिन्छ, तर दिस इज अल्सो समथिङ द्याट्स ड्राइभिङ। अब यसमा यो सबै चाहिँ अटेन्सन मेकानिजमहरुले यिनीहरुले नै गरेको हैन, attention mechanism. So that's another thing. Now I want to so productization ma chai ke bhairach cha ta aile bhandakeri yo QLoRa SSL QLoRa bhane quantized bhayo, quantized low rank adaptations bhanepachi aba hamle this is actually going to be quite useful for Nepal jasto athwa compute resources haru kam bhako haruलाई you talking about 80 billion parameters or use भएकोलाई पनि 4-bit मा लिएर आयो भने you can almost like bring it down to 20 billion को parameters मा लिएर आएर 32 को बाट FP छ भने 4 मा लिएर आएर, so there are lots of things that can be done. QLoRa is one of those things. हामीले अर्को RAG को पनि अहिले 2024 I think was the year of RAG. 2025 I think is the year of agentic AI हैन, जसले चाहिँ multiple it acts like a human agentic AI ले अर्को नयाँ recently नै couple of months ago चाहिँ Anthropic ले MCP पनि निकालेको छ, modular के भन्छ यो MCP. It's like a MCP if you think about it, it's almost like a USB code जस्तो क्या, you can just plug in सबैको commonality जस्तो. So QLoRa is like upgrading your phone system with a new app, with not a new device. So you automizes, customizes powerful AI efficiently, making innovation possible. So these are some of the things that's productizing AI Koma. I'm trying to set this stage so that Dr. Manandhar, when he talks about it, and when the questions are answered. But by the way, I encourage folks to just not just Q&A ma matre to question answer but share your experience also. This is for एउटा चाहिँ स्वगान स्वरूप हामी चाहिँ संस्कृतको एउटा लेखेको पनि छ भने चाहिँ whatever knowledge we have, if we share it, it enriches us all. होइन, त्यो पनि that's one of the things that we're trying to do. सबैले सबै कुरा जानेको हुँदैन, त्यस कारणले चाहिँ जति सेयर गर्यो त्यति नै राम्रो हुन्छ. So that's the other thing that's productizing. Last one, I want to talk a little bit about this bias, explainability, and security. Staffly additive explanations. It basically tells you कुन चाहिँको भ्याल्यु कति, कुन चाहिँमा भनौँ न अब खसीको मासुकै गर्दाखेरि खसीको मासु मिठो कसरी भयो भन्दाखेरि त तन्दुरी मसालाले गर्दाखेरि बढी हाल्यो, त्यो तन्दुरी मसालाको सँग इफेक्ट बढी भयो, अथवा नुन बढी हाल्यो ट्वाक्क भयो, अथवा खुर्सानीले ट्वाक्क भयो. सो स्ट्याफलीले चाहिँ त्यो प्रकारले एक्सप्लेन गर्छ. किनभने एआईको इफ यु थिंक अबाउट इट, कतिको चाहिँ इट्स अलमोस्ट लाइक अ ब्ल्याक बक्स बाट वी वान्ट टु मुभ इट टु द ग्लास बक्स. होइन, ब्ल्याक बक्स भयो भने कसरी त्यहाँबाट कुन डिसिजन गर्यो, कसरी निस्कियो भन्ने चाहिँ त्यो थाहा हुँदैन. सो एक्सप्लेनेबल एआई which is a larger framework, त्यसको स्ट्याफले चाहिँ त्यसको इन्टरनलाइज गर्छ. अब यो इलन मस्कको XAI ले पनि इट्स मुभिङ द्याट क्वाइट फरवर्ड. यसमा अब बायस यिनीहरूको पनि कुराहरू छ. अब यो अगेन दिस टाइज अप टु नेपालको पनि एआई पोलिसीहरू नयाँ बनाइरहेछ. त्यो बनाउनेमा पनि all of these will have to be factored in. So this is also going to be pretty interesting in how we incorporate and gain trust of people. होइन, if people don't use it, if people don't like AI or जति नबुझ्यो, जति AI ले कसरी गर्छ के गर्छ भन्ने थाहा भएन, त्यसको एन्टिपैथी बढ्नु भन्दा एक्सप्लेनेबिलिटी बढाएर यो कसरी चल्यो, के गर्यो, यसको पछाडि कसरी हाउ इज द इन्जिन्स आर वर्किङ, राइट, त्यो प्रकारले हेर्यो भने देन विल बी एबल टु अगेन यो सबै कुराहरू चाहिँ फेरि कस्तो हाम्रो पुरानो जस्तो. इफ यु लुक एट नेपालको व्हाट आई वान्ट टु से इज for those of us who are slightly, have seen the world a little bit more, Nepalma, एकैपल्ट कलर टिभी आयो. There's no black and white. इन्डियामा कतिसम्म दूरदर्शन भनेर ब्ल्याक एन्ड व्हाइट टिभी आयो, नेपालमा एकैपल्ट कलर टिभी आयो. एन्ड देन त्यसपछि ल्यान्डलाइनमा एकदमसँग एक वर्ष सोर्स लगाएर ल्यान्डलाइनलाई नम्बर लिनलाई कति गाह्रो थियो. मोबाइल टेक्नोलोजी आएर एभ्रीबडी ह्याड अ मोबाइल फोन. होइन, अहिले इन्टरनेट अब पेनिट्रेसन पनि 75 कति%, भेरी हाई त्यो छ. सो त्यसले भन्दाखेरि यो एआईको विषयमा पनि मलाई चाहिँ कस्तो लाग्छ नि, वी डोन्ट नेसेसरली वी आर गोइङ टु टेक द्याट नेक्स्ट स्टेप. नेपालमा त्यो अहिले जनशक्ति छ जुन इन्स्टेड अफ लट अफ युथ पपुलेसन छ हु आर इन्ट्रेस्टेड इन दिस सलिड म्याथमेटिकल फाउन्डेसन छ भने त त्यसपछि अब टेक्नोलोजी प्लेटफर्म छ त जति मोड्युलर भए पनि जति अगाडि बढे पनि इट जस्ट क्याच अप एन्ड गो विथ इट. सो त्यो विषयमा पनि नेपालमा चाहिँ इट हेज लट्स अफ पोटेन्सियल. सो आइडिया इज टु लाइक हाउ डु यु stop this wholesale migration of Nepal youth so that they can stay back in country, and or like if they have gone, they come back and do something for the country. Finance sector ma hoस्, Rashtra Bank ko picture sa, agriculture sector ma hoस्, urban management development sector ma hoस्, हैन. There are lots of AI services that people can provide. Students, like what I can say is like, pursue AI, ML, data science degrees or online courses. Google can कति free छ, Coursera, edX मा छ, practical experience लिए हुन्छ, join hackathons, coding competitions clubs AI clubs join गर्ने, internship I mean, don't try to think like you're going to make big bucks right away. Try to see if you can gain some experience also, right? So in a real world experience and then it'll come, the big bucks will come. So just be a little patient. Connect with networking, professional all of these are going to help the students. So there are lots of opportunity in AI services, data labeling, model training, or they can localize AI products, R&D, open source platform. So these are some of the things that I think, in my opinion, these are, and by the way, these are all my opinions that I'm sharing with you. These are not like a fact, 100%. So having said that, having set the stage, now I want to I want to now go back and invite Dr. Manandhar, Dr. Suresh Manandhar, and have him come and talk with me. Dr. Manandhar, if I can have your video on, I will then hand over the floor to you with some opening remarks. The way I'm thinking, Dr. Manandhar, is the way we should go about this is like, first of all, perhaps you should start with your experience. Banana, you have lots of I saw, your Google Scholar ranking is also quite high, academic, but if you can just, inspire us with your academic to entrepreneurial journey, कसरी भयो, कताबाट, how did you get into it? Perhaps that could be a good starting point. Just a suggestion for you to as you go on. So again, welcome, Dr. Sismanda, and I'm excited to hear from you. Welcome, sir. The floor is yours.
Namaste, Savajdanlai. Thank you so much for having me and hosting me. And also, first time I'm speaking to Simon, so very pleased to meet you virtually. Hi, Upekshaji. So thank you for your patience and making this happen. So I didn't know about your organization, right, before I was contacted by Upekshaji. So thank you. I think we need lots of initiatives like this, and I wish you success. And any help myself and my colleagues can give you, will be absolutely happy. Right? Okay. तपाईँको क्वेसनलाई एन्सर गर्दाखेरि how did I end up where I am at this point in time, होइन? So academic journeyमा चाहिँ so I was really interested in science बच्चादेखि नै र चाहिँ म चाहिँ नेपालमा सरकारी स्कुलमा विश्वनिकेतनमा पढ्थेँ. I was really into science by myself, self-learning नै थियो मेरो. And I was really interested in aeronautics to begin with. So I used to make model airplanes, होइन, अनि टुडी खेलमा चाहिँ उडाउँथेँ मैले. अनि त्यसपछि चाहिँ also a little bit of hobby electronics, होइन, त्यो जमानामा. So this was before there was any kits, no guidebooks or anything. So I used to go to the library, look at the designs of airplanes, look at the electronics and build it myself, होइन. त्यसपछि चाहिँ I realized that perhaps I cannot become an aeronautical engineer because there was only one university in India that taught it, and I thought that I would never get accepted there. So त्यसपछि my second best choice was electronics and electrical engineering. So that's what I did. So इन्डियामा गएर चाहिँ मैले electrical and electronics engineering गरेँ. र गर्दा गर्दै चाहिँ I learned about assembly programming and bit of Fortran programming. So this was in the late 79, early 80, 81 तिरको कुरा हो. अनि त्यसपछि चाहिँ the programming really hooked me. So programming चाहिँ सिकेर चाहिँ म नेपाल आएँ. र नेपाल आएर चाहिँ मैले चाहिँ राष्ट्रिय कम्प्युटर केन्द्रमा चाहिँ I joined as a systems engineer. What that meant was basically to code in assembly on a mainframe. अनि त्यो mainframeमा चाहिँ my job was primarily to link different types of computers. So there was a American computer in Nepal Telecom, and त्यसको चाहिँ billing tapes around थियो राष्ट्रिय कम्प्युटर केन्द्रमा. But त्यताको computers mainframe चाहिँ British computer थियो. They didn't talk to each other. So I had to go through the data in binary and rewrite the binary data in a format that the British machine could understand. So obviously there was no debuggers. There was just one manual. All the coding was in punch cards. So very prehistoric, right? And tapes, right? Tape drives. त्यस्तो खालको थियो environment. So I worked there, and त्यसपछि चाहिँ I was getting really fed up of doing assembly coding a lot. अनि त्यसपछि चाहिँ I really looked around in the British Library, American Library to figure out, okay, where should I be heading भनेर. At that point, this was like 85, 86, I discovered AI. It was very, very early. And then I thought, okay, this is, my interest in mathematics, my interest in languages. यो सबैले गर्दा चाहिँ I should do that भनेर चाहिँ I made up my mind. Ani at the same time चाहिँ त्यति बेला चाहिँ I was working on Nepali language encoding. So I was really interested in how can we make the computer understand Nepali, not just in terms of fonts, होइन जुन अहिले Nepali fontsहरू छ, but also to do real data processing in Nepali. So I designed चाहिँ त्यति बेलाको Nepali encoding system, which was essentially in some sense equivalent to Unicode. But obviously Unicode didn't exist. This was 15 to 20 years before Unicode. And त्यसपछि I had my first startup in Nepal, which is called PCS, Professional Computer Systems, which still exist. So we collectively built the Nepali data processing system. I co-founded that company, but soon after that, I resigned from that, and I went to the UK to do my master's in AI at the University of Essex. And त्यसपछि चाहिँ from there, I applied for a PhD at the University of Edinburgh because I discovered that, Edinburgh was a good place to do natural language processing. Right? So that's how I slowly went from like flying aeroplanes to doing electronics, hardware, to assembly coding, to Nepali language data processing, to masters in AI, specializing in natural language processing, and eventually starting a PhD at the University of Edinburgh. I worked on grammar formalisms. So this was before machine learning, and how to encode grammar formalisms in the computer. So using what's known as a constraint programming, also known as ontologies, semantic web पनि भन्छ, होइन? So I worked on mathematical theorem proving for a bunch of constraint languages designed for processing natural language. So very complicated, and it was quite complicated, so very mathematical. And then I realized while I was doing a postdoc at the University of Edinburgh itself that I really need to switch my attention to machine learning, because there's no way it's going to be possible to encode a natural language using just the rules of grammar, because nobody speaks perfectly grammatical English, and grammars are different, etc., across people, across communities, etc. And त्यसपछि I went to the University of York from there, and joined the recently formed AI research group to work on machine learning. So that's a very kind of a brief, somewhat shortened version of how I ended up in AI and doing natural language processing and machine learning.
Wow. And I'm thinking, while you're going through that, I'm trying to visualize that before the internet, they used to, you're talking about punch cards, then they used to call sneaker net. You basically, you take a floppy, 3.5 floppy that had a capacity of 1.4 megabytes, and then you just walk on your sneaker, plug it into the next one. So that was the sneaker net before the internet, right? So it's I'm thinking like, okay, binary, simple assembly languages, some of the classes that I took in college, JAMANA. So just the whole evolution, you encapsulate basically. I was talking about the AI history a little bit, but you essentially computer science come up, and this is absolutely fascinating the way the experience that you've had. So you have experience by see, obviously this was the Wiseyak was not your first stab at entrepreneurialism, होइन? Yeah, especially with your background in mathematics, obviously नयाँ कुरा के गरौँ भनेर जहिले पनि भइ नै रहन्छ. So what were your transition, or how did you think about getting this Wiseyak started? If you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, certainly. So just to continue where I left, so I was at the University of York in 1996. So I was there for 23 years, I know, before I moved to Nepal at the end of 2019. अनि म 1996 मा University of York join गरेर I started working on machine learning. अनि 1998 तिर 2 वर्षपछि चाहिँ I had an opportunity to work with my colleague who specialized in computer graphics to somehow combine graphics and natural language processing. So that's how we got the idea of my kind of second startup, which is called Lexical, where we built essentially अहिलेको modern, अहिलेको young generation चाहिँ the closest analog was essentially a RAG system before the word RAG even existed at that point, So it was a conversational. So it was actually a bit more complicated than a RAG system because it has a task-oriented dialogue, dialogue modules, dialogue trees, and so on and so forth. So it was a virtual character that we had. So we built a full 3D skeletal morphing engine, which can run natively inside an ActiveX control in Windows Explorer 1. So very prehistoric, with the full 3D controls. Because we had to make the 3D animation work on an 8K modem at that time.
Yeah.
We designed an engine which can run on the browser natively, and the server would send a plan. So this plan was generated offline by AI planning algorithm. And the plan would say something like, move left arm up with the timestamp within this millisecond, and then move your lips in this kind of shape in the same time frame. So it'll generate a parallel plan for all the different body parts and also sync that with the timestamps of the audio. So we use the text-to-speech engine and a speech codec. That speech codec is still popular. I think it's called SpeechX or something, which is a non-lossy speech compression engine. And we built our own animation engine. And it was essentially a kind of a mini version of a RAG system. So you can ask any question. And we use semantic similarity, which is equivalent to the embedding technology we use today. And that is going to map to some answer. And there's going to be your dialogue history. And based on that, there's going to be a disambiguation step to generate the answer. So that was what we built. And we launched that in 2002. We sold it, the first system, to HSBC Bank, which is one of the biggest banks, definitely in the UK, probably around the world as well. And we were featured on the BBC Click program by the same person who is still there in BBC Click, Simón, I think. And he had just started his job in BBC Click, and he came to interview us in his first 3 months or 4 months' time. But I think the problem we had was that we were at least 10 years, too soon, too early to market. In 2002, having a live virtual character chatbot with a 3D animated character. The internet was just happening. starting at that point in time. So a lot of people didn't know what this, chatbot thing was. And I think that's the reason we failed. But I think it was a mistake on hindsight on my part and my colleagues' part that we somehow decided, not to keep the company alive. So that was a mistake. अनि त्यसपछि चाहिँ अब I decided at that point in 2002 that this startup scene is not for me. I didn't want to have anything to do with the startup scene because I was very disappointed. And then in 2019, when I came back to Nepal, Wiseyak was already there, but it was doing outsourcing. And I was already providing some scientific advice remotely for Wiseyak. And so when I returned to Nepal, they wanted me to join the company, but I was only interested if, the company pivoted towards AI. So when I joined, I said that I would only join if, Wiseyak transition into AI. And we chose healthcare as an area. So it was not a very business informed decision. We thought that business and AI is going to have a huge impact in Nepal. So that's how I ended up in Wiseyak and doing AI in healthcare.
Wow, fascinating again. And we were saying that, I don't know what that khasiko masu is sticking to my head like crazy. अनि अब भनौँ न खसी के भन्छ उसमा गयो त्यो मोटो खसी भनेर किनेर लिएर आयो काटकुट पनि आफै गर्यो त्यो आन्द्रा भुडी पनि आफै सफा गर्यो होइन अनि त्यसो गर्यो तेल पनि तुहारेर कराईमा राख्यो त्यस मसला पनि अब त्यो बाहिरबाट त्यो मसला किनेर आफै आफै मसलाहरू गर्यो so the whole thing basically from end to end processing you had to do that and that kind of like set you up for भनौँ एक किसिमले जे आए पनि whatever comes in the next frontier you're ready for that, right? So you say I found that absolutely interesting from what you're just saying. When you look at it, especially your LLM foundational model गर्दाखेरि कामै पनि धेरै सजिलो भएको छ होइन इट्स लाइक अब त एउटा बुचरका गयो मलाई उ त्यो के भन्छ ल याफुलाको मासु दिनुस् भन्यो होइन अनि त्यता लिएर आयो अथवा त्यसको के गयो भने जस्तो so it's all become a lot more efficient and streamlined process. But at the same time, your frontier it keeps on moving. It keeps on moving. 1990s ma .com ko jun prakarko burst out of the scene bhako थियो. It is a certain level of euphoria, certain level of excitement about AI भन्ने कुरा के हो भन्ने कुरामा. So how do you lot of experiences that you've had, there's a lot of academic research this is also going on. So Nepal's the ठाउँमा, how do you see your AI को academic research जति पनि भइरहेको छ अहिले र startup को application like you said, healthcare was the way you went about it was not like this isn't a tree in I mean somehow you came to that almost instinctively. On त्यसपछि you also I also want you to ask about that the failed I won't call it failed, you gained a lot from it, the chatbot ko जुन चाहिँ राखिरहेको भए also successful हुन्थ्यो. So kind of like mix that in together on the lessons learned and what is out there on the academic and research field, and where do you see this startup applications नेपालमा चाहिँ के applicable होला जस्तो लाग्छ? How do you close that gap?
So Saunda Paila, maybe I can trace a little bit about academic journey and academic research. I know. So Suruma, when I moved to the University of York, I started working on what's known as symbolic machine learning. I know. It's inductive logic programming in Panza. So that is about learning programs using machine learning. I know. अहिले त अब we also have neural networks doing that, code generation, that kind of thing. अनि त्यसपछि चाहिँ and almost all of my work at that point was on natural language processing. So focusing on learning the rules of grammar, that kind of thing. And त्यसपछि चाहिँ I switched my focus on the semantics. So computational semantics is a big area of natural language processing. And I ran a number of international competitions on computational semantics, where the aim was to figure out the meaning of a word, in a fully unsupervised setting, and also to do disambiguation of words in an unsupervised setting. And त्यसपछि चाहिँ around 2015-16, I started working on neural networks. And I think in 2016, we published our paper on dependency-based embeddings, which became a competitor to BERT. And still, if you look at other people's work, which compares our dependency-based embeddings with BERT, it shows that, ours is substantially better than BERT. So that kind of how I ended up doing the work on neural language processing. At the same time, I was also working on reinforcement learning and also on medical image analysis at that time. So this was around 2015, 16 onwards. So त्यो ट्रेस गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ अब अहिले आएर चाहिँ 2019देखि चाहिँ we had the 18-19देखि चाहिँ we had the foundational models, which was essentially a slight enhancement on BERT type of models. अनि त्यसपछि चाहिँ we had prompt engineering, with GPT, which essentially is a mechanism to combine multiple data sets into a single data set, and then to provide an instruction at the beginning, to explain what this particular data line or data row is about, data point is about. So the task for the language understanding is not just to do one single prediction like sentiment analysis, but to do multiple, but to do the task depending on the prompt itself. So that's where things are, where अब अहिले आएर चाहिँ what we realize at this point in time is that just doing next word prediction and combining that into a prompt based instruction model is definitely got us this far. It's a massive jump, but still very far away from being able to do other things. So the other things, what we realize is that it's actually quite hard, even for the best LLMs, to do few shot learning on a totally new data set. So we still don't know at this point in time, like human beings, we can train ourselves on a very small amount of data. So we're still a little bit far away from achieving that in the LLM setting. So, so one strand of research is definitely going on in terms of building models which can be trained with very small amount of data. So that's an important area. Obviously, there are other areas that I think the audience is probably aware of. That is to combine modalities, so vision, language, speech, etc. So X-rays and so on and so forth. So त्यो त ठिकै छ, So more importantly, about next step, we want to have models which can reason. So reasoning models, we've seen some progress towards that, which is combining some elements of search stochastic search, in the inference pipeline and optimizing for that. So त्यो चाहिँ भइरहेछ अहिले. So I think so learning from small number of examples, being able to reason, होइन? So यो चिजहरू चाहिँ I think we will hopefully solve to a large extent in the next 1 or 2 years. अनि त्यो कन्टेक्स्टमा चाहिँ I think there's a tremendous opportunity for researchers and bubbling scientists who might already be here in our participant list to work even in Nepal, because we want to build small language models which can be trained on a small amount of data to do multiple tasks in multiple modalities and to do reasoning, so that way we can have small AI models which we can plug in to do lots of useful tasks without the need for chat GPT type of compute resources, and maybe I think I can see that these kinds of models can be plugged in to very cheap robots in the next 1 year, let's say, to do useful tasks. So I think this is definitely within reach, even for scientists in Nepal, to be able to build robots at very low cost to put in small reasoning, very fast learning models, which are being built. Obviously, the research is at the very early stage at this point in time. That given the exponential rate of progress we're having in AI, we can expect this to be achieved very fast. त्यो छ. अनि so moving back to the startup ecosystem in Nepal, I think first of all I would like to paint the positive side of this. Obviously, there are a huge amount of challenges in Nepal in terms of doing any kind of AI startup. So त्यो त छँदैछ. तर I think if we work collectively, if we are determined to make progress, make things happen, I think it's going to be possible. अर्को positive point के छ भने I think Simón touched on that, अनि मेरो journeyमा पनि I touched on that. Things are a lot easier to do right now compared to what I endured, 30 years ago or 40 years ago. You have YouTube, you have the internet, you have all kinds of tutorials. Everything is relatively cheap and easy to access right now. So I think achieving success right now is significantly easier compared to how it was in my time. And त्यसैले I think that's the positive side. The negative sides in Nepalमा चाहिँ obviously for startups, access to venture capital funding is hard for tech startups. That's difficult. Access to international markets is hard for tech startups, and accessing and retaining high quality talent is also very difficult in Nepal. So I think those things are things that we collectively should keep on raising our voice, and hopefully, the government will fully understand how important it is to address these issues, and hopefully things will change and things will become easier for us. So I'm not sure I covered all the points, but I think I'll stop just now.
No, absolutely. You touched on some of the important कुराहरू, especially what you're working on, like if you start learning and यसको limitations-हरु भनौँ, overgeneralizations, too less of a data, overfitting, your problem solve गर्ने, like you're talking about there's lots of meta learning or भयो, and त्यसपछि data augmentation, new data generation, that some of the things that can be done, regularization techniques-हरु पनि agentic AI पनि आइरहेछ. So जुन प्रकारले the almost like progress भइरहेछ AI को fieldमा with lots of resources available, the opportunity is immense and unlimited जस्तो लाग्छ मलाई. And what you touched on, I want to also get into whatever you can share without divulging proprietary information. Wiseyak K technology for a lot of attendees here who I think are primarily not just to hear about startups in Nepal, but also learn quite a few things. That's the way that I, formatted my presentation as well. So whatever you can share about Wiseyak's technology, that. But prior to that, also the challenges that you brought on about, right? So jati kaam gare pani, jati gare pani, whatever you get in, how do you gain access to that international market? Right. So you being having worked and having had this exposure, having had obviously जे गरे पनि मार्केट त गर्न परिहाल्यो, त्यो मार्केटमा त पुग्न परिहाल्यो, नत्र भने खासै त्यति ऊ हुँदैन, त्यसलाई सस्टेनेबिलिटी हुँदैन, फाइनेन्सियल भाइबिलिटी हुँदैन. सो यो इन्टरनेसनल मार्केटको एक्सेसमा कसरी पुग्ने र त्यसपछि to the extent that you can share about some of the key technologies that Wiseyak is currently deploying. If you could shed some light on that, please.
Sure. So I think in Wiseyak, we started out in healthcare, right? So Samanda Paila Chai, I realized that even before we do any AI properly within healthcare, we need to have healthcare data in a platform, right? And so we started working on electronic medical records and data standardization, data interoperability, right? Sorry, sorry about that. So data interoperability, in electronic health records. त्यसमा चाहिँ हामीले काम गर्यौं. So we built a platform for electronic health records, electronic medical records that is interoperable and follows a standard known as FHIR, which is an international standard for healthcare. So that's how we started. And then we started looking at all the different components a hospital would need for data storage. And त्यसपछि we started gradually working on AI driven applications on top of the data platform. So our philosophy is very simple, which is that we provide a system which has an active learning component, where the doctor or the specialist can continuously fine-tune a model in a very fast manner. Whenever the AI system makes a mistake, there's a mechanism for an expert to provide feedback and actively improve the model. So that's the philosophy we are following. And in terms of domain, we are relatively domain agnostic, but we have done work on fundus images, and we've done work on X-rays, and we've also done work on microscopy. So I think that's the purely medical application. But at the same time, given my passion in natural language, we've been working on building mixed language, which is Nepali and English mixed code within the same sentence, voice-to-voice systems. So we're building voice recognition, text-to-speech, and speech-to-text engines, which can handle mixed language voice. So currently we are deploying English and Nepali mixed language, and we hope to add more languages into that mix. And we have built our own from scratch, our own agentic AI platform, which is which can be used to deploy an agentic AI system with voice interfaces without doing any coding. So where you can plug in SQL engines, backend APIs, text, PDF, etc., images, and you can do, all the agentic AI stuff. So our aim would be in the medical domain to make the data entry part, which is the most difficult, as simply as possible, as easy as possible. So, for example, the system could listen to doctor and patient's conversation, automatically create the medical records, which the doctor will be able to edit, right? Um, um, and basically, the AI systems can do a lot of things to assist doctor, either to do differential diagnosis, pull up similar cases, etc. So that's the kind of work we're doing in Wiseyak at the moment.
Fascinating. So, and as you go along, you took obviously the frontier is moving forward. So whatever you come across, real business problems, and you try to tackle them. You try to, especially Jun say, your conversation like capture गर्ने भने, this is like the new moving frontier. Also, I think you say राम्रो नै हुन्छ एकदमसँग. तर having done that, you need to have again. Connections or references or clients who are willing to at least try the product or the services, right? So you international. After this, I want to go back to the Q&A from the attendees, but I wanted to ask this again: the international market exposure, हरूको लागि, for some of the AI startup enthusiasts that we have as attendees, you exposure, the reference, building the first client, because the productizing that you're talking about is especially your doctor's note like parts that are NLP ले राखेर ontology बनाएर गर्नेहरू तिनीहरू छ भइ नै पनि रहेछ. And you talk about data interoperability and fire OMAP-हरू पनि छ. त्यसपछि, but obviously that's governed by a little bit of what you can share. HIPAA-को constraints-हरू छ, GDPR-को constraints-हरू छ. तर that's I think are like more like a functional challenges, right? But the business challenge is like getting that foothold, that beachhead on whatever you're working on international markets. So any advice you have or any experience that you want to share about that, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, so I wish we were successful in a big way, and we had 100 employees, but we are not, right? We are still relatively small, about 25 employees, I know. We were a little bit bigger. I think नेपालबाट चाहिँ विदेशमा जानको लागि चाहिँ to go from Nepal outside, you already need to have a foothold outside because the environment as Nepal is not very conducive, and access to global market is very difficult Nepalबाट, होइन? And on top of that, तपाईँले भने जस्तै चाहिँ US healthcare market is has got huge amount of compliance related stuff, huge amount of legislation related stuff, which makes entry in the mainstream healthcare market quite difficult, right? So we have not been greatly successful in that front, although we have a number of partnerships, engagements going on, right? But we haven't had achieved significant breakthrough from a commercial point of view. So मेरो advice चाहिँ के हुन्छ भने the model that Wiseyak is following is probably not the model I would advise everybody else to follow. I think the easiest model in Nepal is outsourcing, right? And outsourcing services is the easiest model. So I think if you want an easy entry from a financial perspective, a business perspective, you should probably do a startup, focusing on outsourcing. And if you want to then move to productize some of that, then you should slowly try to productize that, right? Basically, if you look at the big companies which are successful in Nepal, there are only two types. One is Nepalese companies that are outsourcing. The other is foreign companies, either US or European companies, which have done some of the R&D, some of your product development in Nepal, right? Or some of their services in Nepal. So I can only see those type of companies that are successful in Nepal. And if you look at homegrown companies serving the Nepalese market, we can only see few such companies because the market size is too small. So that means to be successful, you need to be, working at a national level. So we can look at, I don't know, eSeva or other big players, right? And it was quite difficult for them to become profitable, right? So we can look at a lot of such companies where the journey to become profitable has been very long. So I think you need to think very carefully in terms of how you were going to position your business strategy, your growth strategy, in a way, right, to become successful. And the rules, the legislation, the policies, etc. in Nepal are still not very conducive to startups like us. So so I'm not sure, I've answered your question, but the thing I would add to that is, obviously for any startup, you need to keep going, right? So if you don't have that kind of attitude, it is difficult. Or alternatively, you will never scale, right? You would still be a 1-man or 3-man or 5-man company. So I think to go from there to scaling up and and then from scaling up locally in Nepal to scaling up globally, all of these are, difficult steps. And you need to have a clear idea and plan. Obviously, you need to have the right kind of partnerships, right kind of, connections globally. If you're going to scale up globally, you need to have lots of pilots done internationally, and which is going to inform you in terms of how the product roadmap is going to be. So I'm going to stop there.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. That seemed very interesting. While I was thinking about while you're saying this innovation, right? How does innovation happen? हामीले अब कति कुरा त overnight मेरो यस्तो idea भयो यस्तरी successful हुन्छ. No, it's built on, like any successful company you look at is built on failures of, like, hundreds of them. Jack Ma, Alibaba, देखि लिएर सबैको हामीले स्टोरी नै हेर्दा, and innovation I try to think, like, analogy कसरी गर्ने भन्दाखेरि, think of it like a seed एउटालाई grow गरेर plant बनाउनको लागि, if that plant successful innovation त्यो हुनको लागि, what do you need? You need a good soil, nutrient भएको, you need water, I know you need a good seed quality. You need a place where you can put in right temperature so that that seed can grow in, that idea can flourish, that idea can come out. And once it comes out, once the leaves start sprouting, then you go out and put it on the sunko exposure. So the innovation go through steps, nothing will happen overnight. It just, like you said, the amount of work that you put in, the position you are in, didn't happen. आजको भोलि नै एउटा हाम्रो चाहिँ shortcut लिने बानीहरू चाहिँ जति पनि हुन्छ त्यो it's not going to work. You have to put in the long hours. You have to put in lots of hard work. Eventually. So the first thing, obviously, in solving any kind of issues or problems or challenges is identifying. And what you did just now is you identified quite a few challenges that has to, be crossed over, has to be conquered in order for Nepali company like to have that international market exposure. And how do we go about doing that? Especially starting with, go with the low-hanging fruits, right? So you start with the outsourcing model, then kind of like build the network relationships, and then move in to see if you can productize some of your products. So initially service products, then you come up with the products. And obviously, while you work that, I want to come back with you after I read some of the questions from attendees, Dr. Manandhar, about talent management, talent resources. How do you keep? That's a big challenge. Everybody, hamro banona. I don't want to blame. I'm here in America. I should be the last person to throw stones at anybody else. बाहिर जान चाहिँ हामीलाई सबैलाई खोजिहाल्छौँ हैन सो कोही जान्ने बुझ्ने छ भने पनि मान्छेहरू अब लोकसेवाको अफिसर भएकोहरू त मान्छेहरू त आउँछ, सबैजना आउँछ होइन। त्यसकारण त्यो ट्यालेन्ट पुललाई म्यानेज गरेर रिटेन गर्ने कसरी, while you think about that, I would like you to answer that. While you think about that, I want to read some of the questions here. The first question that I see is, are you going to teach the AI tools, useful startups? Yeah, यसमा अब उपेक्षा तुलाधरजीले भन्नुहुन्छ भूगोल पार्क has some plans regarding that. यो अहिलेको सेसन चाहिँ it's more focused on Dr. Suresh Manandhar and what knowledge and wisdom he can impart on rest of us भन्नेमा हो. So that will come and you can contact Google Park for that. अर्को पृथ्वी अर्यालले लेख्नुहुन्छ, I am here from remote area, how can I start? यसमा अलिकति I think we've already touched based on this a little bit. रिमोटमा पनि okay, infrastructure अलिकति त चाहिहाल्यो, अलिकति devices त चाहिहाल्यो हैन. So I think we kind of touched on that. So next question is, how are companies like Wiseyak bringing change in Nepal using AI? है, अब यो चाहिँ specific to Nepal भन्ने जस्तो कुरा आयो. So I would like you to ponder that. Let me read through the whole list so you can perhaps combine all the questions. So one question is, how are companies like Wiseyak bringing change in Nepal using AI? Arko question cha, to what extent Nepal's tech ecosystem supporting AI-based startups? I think you already touched on this, but if you want to include that also. And the third question that I have from the attendees is, what was Dr. Suresh's experience in Fuse Machine? So Wiseyak नेपालमा कसरी चेन्ज लिएर आइरहेछ, इकोसिस्टममा टेक इकोसिस्टममा एआई बेस्ड स्टार्टअपलाई कसरी सपोर्ट भइरहेको छ र तपाईको फ्युज मसिनमा एक्सपिरियन्स के भएको. If you could answer those, then perhaps continue as a segue, or on a next answer we'll talk about talent and resource management.
Hazur, I can do that, Heine. So actually I want to start with the talent part. So I started, when I moved to Nepal, I started mentoring a lot of young graduates, Heine, who just graduated from computer science and have a strong interest in machine learning, NLP. So through experience, and I continued to do a lot of mentoring, Heine. र अहिले आएर वाइजाकमा के राम्रो भएछ भने, we receive a huge number of applications, probably, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 applications every day from really good young people wanting to do ML, NLP roles or internships in Wiseyak, होइन. त्यो point of view-बाट चाहिँ attracting talent in Wiseyak has been relatively easy. But it obviously took a lot of effort in the beginning to get to that point. Tara, at the same time, retaining talent in Nepal is extremely hard, right? So they would stay with us for maybe 1 year or 2 years, and then they would get a scholarship to study in the US, and then I would be writing reference letters for most of them, and I would lose them, and then I have to, so because I have a continuous supply of interns and junior NLP interns, so the wheel keeps on turning in Wiseyak. So that's how it is. I have a few people, some of my senior people who have been with me for the last 5 years, 6 years. Some I've trained in the UK who are still with me back in Nepal. Depends how, but I think the process is difficult, but doable. The one thing about being an academic and educator is that I tremendously enjoy, training the young people. So it's a very rewarding experience for me. So I don't mind the fact that, they go to do their PhDs or masters and have newer people joining in. So, but obviously from a business point of view, I think there could be some question marks there, right? About अहिले आएर चाहिँ trying to answer the questions here, I can see it. So maybe So remote area ma bhaneko cha haina. So I think the good thing about AI is that all you need is a laptop to, or even a phone to learn AI. So you can have Google Colab, haina. You don't even need any space locally. Everything runs on the browser, haina. There's a ton of YouTube videos available for you to learn anything, haina, whatever your fancy is. I think you need to figure out what is it you're passionate about. I think that's a really important point. I cannot over stress that. The problem I see sometimes in younger generation is that they want to learn everything, and they want to devote, I don't know, 1 hour every day to learn everything in the next 6 months. Clearly, that's not possible, right? To learn anything, you have to devote significant amount of time. You should just focus on one thing at a time. I think so. That's an important point. But everything is available to you online. So there's, you know, if you're in Washington D.C. or you're in Dang, I don't think there's any difference as long as there's a good internet connection, right? Um, so now next company question: how are companies like Wiseyak bringing change in Nepal using AI? So I can give two examples. One is that we've been advocating data interoperability and the need for electronic medical records, होइन? र लास्ट यो अहिले चाहिँ आएर चाहिँ स्वास्थ्य मन्त्रीज्यूले चाहिँ he has taken some of the points that we've been saying, and now the Nepal government is mandating that every hospital should have electronic medical record, and it should be fire interoperable, होइन? So that's one thing I can say. The other thing we can also say is that about 4 or 5 months ago, Wiseyak open source, open Wiseyak LLM, which is a fine-tuned version of Llama, which can understand Nepali. So where you can even provide your prompt in Nepali. And we have open sourced the whole thing, including the data sets and the code that we've used to train that model. So it's a small step. We don't claim that it is the best or anything like that. It's just something to for us to get started in building our own domain-specific LLM. So I think those are two examples I can remember, I can cite. To what extent is Nepal's tech ecosystem supporting AI-based startup? So I think we touched upon talent, right? So to do startup, AI startup, you need obviously talent. Second, you need access to market. That I already explained what the challenges are. And the third, you need VC funding, right? And VC funding in Nepal is, forget AI, I would say it's not very tech friendly. Because most VCs would rather invest in real estate or hydro, where the return on investment is guaranteed in the next 3 years, or close to guarantee, right? So I think that's one problem. The second problem is the amount of funding that is available is also problematic. So I think we still have a huge amount of a long way to go before our AI or tech startup ecosystem is going to be on par with India. Forget China. China is like 10x ahead of India in this setup, but we are probably 10x below India. So we are like 100x below China. So it's very difficult. That's why I made the point that where Nepal has succeeded is in outsourcing. But then the kind of outsourcing we do, most of it is still, very low quality coding or very basic coding. I don't know to what percentile I would say that is, maybe 50%, 60% of what we do is, very kind of the bottom of the pyramid type of coding systems, coding And that kind of job market, a lot of that is going to go away due to the availability of AI coders, right? So so I think we already seen that, for example, Meta is saying that 50% of their coding is now done through AI. Google is doing 20% or 30%. Microsoft is saying. So if that's the type of code we are supplying in from Nepal in our outsourcing industry, that market is going to be, difficult going forward. So we need to have engineers who are above that pie in the pyramid, who can, who can do systems level coding or do build entire systems, right? Who can look at the code generated by AI coders, correct it, change the code in the right direction, and build entire systems. So which means that improving our education system, improving our teaching is going to be training is going to be super important. Okay, I think I will stop there. The next question. Oh, so what is my experience in Fuse machines? So my experience in Fuse machines has been fantastic. So I was head of AI research in Fuse machines until very recently. I just left about 1 or 2 months ago, two and a half months ago, I believe. So I was there for quite some time, since the end of 2019. Our research team was tasked in building one of their products, which is called Fuse Extract. So, which is a document understanding system where we build models for handwriting recognition, document understanding, table understanding, OCR, and prompt-based information extraction from scratch. And that is being now launched in some of the banks in Nepal. And I think it's also being trialed internationally in the US. So yeah, so I had a very small team, but it was a great team. I had the privilege to work with in Fuse machines. Thank you.
Thank you. कुरा यो मैले त्यही अवस्थातिर भएर क्या नेपालमै गर्नको लागि त मार्केट इज टु स्मल कि त हामीले नै आफैले गर्नु पर्यो यति कि बाहिर नै त्यो प्रडक्ट एक्सपोर्ट गर्न सक्नु पर्यो प्रडक्ट एक्सपोर्ट र एक्सेप्ट पनि गर्न सक्नु पर्यो बाहिरको गर्नको लागि त्यस लर अब त्यो सिचुएसनमा स्पेसली टेक फिल्डमा त्यो भ्यालुएसन कम्पनी भ्यालुएसनदेखि लिएर त्यसलाई इनिसियल स्टार्टअप पहिला बनाउन बुटस्ट्र्याप फन्डिङ आफ्नो पकेटबाट गर्ने pretty much lots of founders do that and then त्यसपछि अलिकति VC एन्जल इन्भेस्टिङहरु आउने नेपालमा त्यो यु लेड आउट जग्गामा गरे भने काठमाडौँमा 10 वर्ष अगाडि गरेको अहिले 10 गुना भइसक्यो हैन त्यो किन कसले त्यो एकदम चाहिँ के यार यही फिल्डमा गर्दै गरेर तपाईहरु गर्नुस् मेरो मोरल सपोर्ट छ भन्नेहरु थुप्रो हुन्छ त्यो एक्चुअल फाइनान्शियल सपोर्ट हुनुहुन्न तपाईले एकदम राम्रो काम गर्नु भइराछ नेपालको लागि तपाईहरु जस्तो मान्छे चाहिन्छ हाम्रो पुरा समर्थन छ हैन त्यो भन्ने टाइपकोहरु चाहिँ एकदमहरु आई मीन लाइक and that's part of के भन्दाखेरि हाम्रो understanding of what tech field is and what AI is भन्ने कुरामा पनि lack of understanding. How does that start भनेपछि one thing you absolutely hit the nail on the head. What I thought was a STEM education हैन हामीले सानैदेखि विद्यार्थीहरुलाई especially अब computational को when you're talking about simple assembly language earlier binary मा coding गर्नेदेखि लिएरहरु so सबैमा गएर त एक्चुअली म्याथमेटिकल फाउन्डेसन त एआई मा इट्स अल म्याथमेटिकल फाउन्डेसन त्यो लेभलको सिस्टम्स लेभलको थिंकिङ सिस्टम्स लेभलको रिकोडिङ किनभने कोड जेनेरेसनहरु त अहिले त अब क्लाउडले पनि खतरा गर्न लाग्छ ग्रकहरुले पनि खतरा गर्छ हैन सो दैट पार्ट इज लाइक इफ वी चेस that's a gone त्यसमा खास अपर्चुनिटी देखिन्छ जस्तो मलाई लाग्दैन तर त्यो एजुकेसनली र एकाडेमिकली नै स्ट्रङ गरेर र अर्को द मेन अर्को कुरा that you pointed out is dive deep. Don't try to go too wide. Everybody tries to go too wide. If you're in business technology, भने मतलब business technology लाई business को तरिकाले सेल गर्ने marketing मा भयो भने yeah you need to go wide. That's a different field, a functionality altogether. But if you want to come up with a product, come up with something new, come up with make a long-lasting impact, then you have to go in deep. त्यो कुरा पनि मलाई चाहिँ absolutely fascinating लाग्यो. I think we've answered all the QAs from this. Having said this, has been a fascinating conversation with you. Thank you so much for your sharing your experiences. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. I wish to be continue to we'll continue to stay in contact and future Mapaniki opportunity avenue. We'll try to do something together. And having said that, I want to give you some closing thoughts on everything that you've heard, anything that you might have missed out, anything you want to talk about. Anywhere, Nepal, Jata, Sansarko, Jatako, Kurani, anything you want to talk about, and just have you close this your thinking on today's live webinar, and then from after that, then I'll hand over to the host of the program, and then we'll go towards the conclusion.
Hazir. So I think I just wanted to say that Bhanau अब AI को कारणले गरेर हैन next year is going to be drastically different from this year, right? So AI को exponential progress ले गरेर AI ले चाहिँ हरेक चीजलाई छुने भएको छ अब कसको job जानेवाला छ we don't know, हैन? Education system लाई यसले कसरी change गर्छ, already it is having an impact, हैन? So even primary school children will probably start using ChatGPT to do some of their homework. So some of this is going to be negative, some of this is going to be positive, होइन? त्यसैले यो अहिले चाहिँ we are at the turning point, होइन? Where everything is going to be affected by AI. And यस्तो changing environment मा, how are you going to remain competitive, होइन? How are you going to make sure your skills are at the point where to a point where it cannot be replaced? And I think त्यसमा चाहिँ especially because we have a lot of young people here, तपाईले STEM भन्नुभयो हैन? So I think learning fundamentals is super important. Learning soft skills is very important, हैन? So computational thinking, logical thinking, critical thinking are really, really important skills, हैन? So नेपालमा चाहिँ धेरै विद्यार्थीहरूले चाहिँ अब जाँच दिँदाखेरि रटेर पढेर जाँच दिने, हैन? So that skill is not going to get you anywhere. It's going to be even harder. किन रटेर पढेर गर्ने काम त अब AI ले गर्न थाल्छ, हैन? त्यसैले अब AI लाई काम लगाउनको लागि what is the skill you need, हैन? त्यो चिजहरुलाई चाहिँ I think everybody needs to pay attention. I think for the young audience here and for the AI researcher, I would say the points I made earlier that access to AI and democratization of AI is going to be, a big factor, which is going to make building AI-driven systems, AI-driven companies so much easier, and the playing field is going to be much more level, in the coming years. Obviously, Nepalको कन्टेक्स्टमा there are its unique challenges. तर त्यसलाई चाहिँ छोड्यो भने चाहिँ I think त्यसलाई चाहिँ एक ठाउँमा राख्यो भने चाहिँ anybody would be able to build interesting robots in next 1 or 2 years time. So I think the future is very bright from that point of view, and there's going to be a huge number of opportunities for everyone. So I wish everybody a big success in their AI journey. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Moile, I have a quick note from the host here. As a program format, we are going to have some of the audience members, attendees also speak up. Voice make questions. So I want to encourage the Q&A. If anybody has any specific question for Dr. Suresh that has not been addressed, अहिलेसम्म उहाँले भनिसकेको कुराहरुमा एड्रेस भएको छैन, भन्नु भएको छैन र तपाईहरुलाई केही प्रश्न छ भने Q&A मा लेख्नुस् र I can invite you, unmute you so you can ask vocally also. While you do that, I had one quick thought also, Dr. Manandhar, कि अहिले यो AI ले यो job को replacement को कुरामा, obviously a lot of folks are very anxious about it. When you have a bloated bureaucracy, right? When you have lots of these folks, I'm trying to think like, how do we यसलाई एनालोगस के हुन सक्छ भन्दाखेरि देयर युज टु बी जब एज अ टाइपिस्ट पहिलातिर होइन टाइपिस्ट भन्ने एउटा फङ्सनै थियो पछि मान्छेले एभ्रीबडी कम्प्युटर भएपछि एभ्रीबडी बिकेम अ टाइपिस्ट सो द्याट कम्प्लिटली टुक अवे द्याट जब तर त्यो भन्दैमा चाहिँ टाइपिस्टले हु ट्रान्सफर्म देमसेल्भ्स इन्टु लाइक अदर सेट अफ वर्क्स विदिन कम्प्युटर्स दे थ्राइभ सो एआईले गर्दाखेरि जब जाने होइन कि एआईले त्यसको जब लान्छ जसले चाहिँ एआई युज गर्दैन सो it'll be human replacing that human, but not necessarily the machine replacing the human at this point in time. त्यो भन्दाखेरि सो यो obviously AI को भित्र लिएर आउँदाखेरि ब्युरोक्रेसीको कामहरू पनि जे पनि इफिसियन्ट हुन सक्छ सबै हुन सक्छ यो जब लस र यो एप्रिहेन्सन छ lot of folks have who are not exposed to what the transformational nature of AI and how they can also utilize it. त्यो जबको एप्रिहेन्सन र उसको लागि केही do you have any suggestions, any comments about specific transitioning or that apprehension?
Yeah, certainly. So I think that reminded me of something I did want to say, and your question prompted me in that direction. So अब यसमा चाहिँ म के भन्न चाहन्छु भने चाहिँ पहिला चाहिँ अब तपाईँले भने जस्तै टाइपिङ गर्न जानेपछि यु क्यान गेट अ जब होइन म पनि एकदम भर्खर एसएलसी दिँदाखेरि आई वाज ट्राइङ टु लर्न नेपाली टाइपराइटिङ इन्स्टिच्युटमा होइन अनि पछि कम्प्युटर आयो होइन अब नाउ यु हेभ टु डु वर्ड एडिटिङ होइन वर्ड अब त्यति बेला आई थिङ्क इट वाज कल वर्ड स्टार or something. So we were learning that होइन र अहिले आएर चाहिँ एआईको जमाना आयो होइन सो बट आई क्यान गिभ यु एनालोजी अब नेपालमा चाहिँ आइएनजिओमा अथवा एनजिओमा जब लिनेको लागि आजभन्दा 10 वर्ष अगाडि इफ यु गुड इन एक्सेल and collecting and putting the data in Excel, generating the report in Excel, you would get a INGO or NGO job. Okay, you become a data analyst and you can get a job. Right? You have some basic statistical knowledge, you can get a really high-paying job. Right? So we can see the progression. Right? Typewriter, but say word processing, but say Excel, but say now we are in AI. So what I would say is that AI is the new Excel now. So so if you're good in doing prompt engineering in a multimodal LLM using ChatGPT, using all the different AI tools, you already got a good job, right? So there's definitely going to be demand for people, at least in the short term, in the next 1 or 2 years, for people who are really good in using all the AI tools, right now. So I even know like 5 or 6 young kids who just finished their year 12, right? 12 class Parker Sakiko, and they have coding jobs. They are not like proper software engineers. If you give them a complicated code, I don't believe that they understand the code themselves, but they know how to put the right prompt in ChatGPT, GPT-4, etc., Claude, to build software. Right? So now, from that point of view, ChatGPT and all of these systems, LLMs, are the new typewriter, right? So I think so if you look at the typical IT stack, you're going to have the coder at the bottom. You will have this system analyst or designer at the next level, like an architect and AI researcher, computer science researcher at the top. So that stack is going to change now. So at the bottom, you'll have the AI prompt engineer, or what's the new word for that? Vibe coding, that's the word, right? So so you're going to be the vibe coder at the bottom, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
next level, you're going to be the code checker, maybe a QA. A lot of the QA tasks will also be automated, right? So you're going to be the QA engineer, the somebody who can check the code AI is generated. Maybe at the next level, on top of that, you'll have the system architect, and then only you'll have the AI scientist, ML engineer, AI scientist at the top, you know. So I think the hierarchy is going to change drastically within, I don't know, 6 months' time, right? So yeah, so I think that's how I think you know, you should retrain yourself into this new AI world, and it's not difficult, right? Doing vibe coding is like probably one day's work. If you spend a whole day, you can be a vibe coder the next day. You know, obviously it's going to take some experience, but it's not difficult, right? So there's a question. I'm a Gen Z, and how do I motivate myself learn all the time, fighting distractions? So I don't know. There are too many distractions, right?
Yeah, too many distractions.
And
Yeah.
most of the Gen Z end up doing too many things at the same time without learning any one thing very deeply. I think depth is going to be super important. I think you need to also have some breadth, but maintaining that depth is going to be important. So I don't know how you want to motivate yourself to do that. I think it's difficult growing up. You know, age is obviously going to be a factor. I did a lot of meditation since I was in my 20s. So I think that helped me focus um, and not, you know, get into distractions. I wasn't always successful, I have to admit, but self-discipline is going to be really, really important. And I want to learn AI, but how? Please suggest. So I think it depends on what is it you want to learn, right? Whether you want to just do vibe coding, what is it? I think you need to figure out. AI is a big space, so you need to figure out what is it you want to learn, right? Whether your goal is to become an AI scientist, an AI engineer, or a, you know, AI system designer, or a vibe coder, right? So I think depending on what you want to be, you have to, you know, pursue that slightly differently.
Absolutely. I was thinking about it like, how do you fight distractions? Obviously, yoga, meditation, these are things. एउटा चाहिँ के हुन्छ नि, I think Gen Z let's say FOMO भन्छ, fear of missing out. What did I miss? What did I miss? के भयो अहिले भनेर चाहिँ, and there's this instant gratification जेमा पनि. एउटा कसले भनेको थियो, you need about 10,000 hours to be an expert in something भनेको छ. So how do you put in that 10,000 hours? I mean, like some of the things that I can think is like, set up micro targets, right? So you don't need to be, you're not going to be AI rock star tomorrow. Start with like, Sullivan asked the buying code. Okay, what is that? Just like, set up micro targets. You can even like, there gamify learning. So that you that get that instant dopamine release, like, okay, I've done this. I can think of like, okay, app or the way it's designed, color simulation and all that. Try to go grayscale on the apps or the mobile phone my settings part so that it does not like chap आँखामा आउँदैन र you feel compelled. Obviously notification off गर्नेहरू भइहाल्यो हैन, notification र environment पनि set up गर्नु पर्यो कि okay हामीले think of it like I don't mean to compare puppies with humans. But a small puppy के हुन्छ भने those of us who have like small puppy dog puppies are like राख्दाखेरि they are like they want to bite this, they want to go run, they want to jump, they want to do everything all at the same time. And so how do you structure them? It's like okay, if you want to go to the bathroom, then you use certain words, you use certain time, you do certain discipline आफूले चाहिँ आफ्नो, and it does. It won't be a cookie cutter approach भन्दा पनि आफूलाई जे एप्लाई हुन्छ त्यो आफूले फिगर आउट गर्नुपर्छ र यसलाई गर्नको लागि अर्को चाहिँ I think partnership, community, right? If I'm trying to learn something, I need to have a partner who will be a check against, who's just like just alcohol खानेहरूलाई alcohol anonymous ग्रुपले कसरी हेल्प गर्छ भन्दाखेरि they're not there to actually stop people taking bottle away. तर त्यो सपोर्ट ग्रुप एउटा भइसकेपछि त्यो सपोर्ट ग्रुपमा त्यस कारण कि जोइन डिस्कर्ड सर्भरहरू छ and all of that. So you सबै micro winning, like using gamified for dopamine release, grayscaling your mobile apps, having a support group to join and all that. I think that will definitely help. I can relate to all of this. The reason I'm saying this is part of my kids are also teenagers now. So I have that experience. And so those some of the things that I've applied and that has helped. Obviously, in creating a project plan or Rupani, a simple Trello board or with a Rakian Pani, you can just get that. Okay, I got this done today. So it's a micro win. So I think we have pretty much. I'm going to ask our host to turn on the video and then come back on if we have not missed anything. I want to take class. Will you teach me? Okay, that's. I want to do my master's thesis in AI. Which domain has knowledge gap in your opinion, sir? Having a hard time finding the topic. Okay, last one. While I ask our host to come back online, I will ask you, Dr. Manandhar, you want to do a master's thesis in AI, which domains has knowledge gap and in your opinion, so having a hard time finding the topic. So it's a thesis topic. भनेपछि ल सरलाई आज क्लास प्रब्लम स्टेटमेन्ट पनि दिनु पर्यो थिसिस स्टेटमेन्ट पनि दिनु पर्यो सरले.
So यसमा चाहिँ obviously तपाईँको background knowledge is going to be important, होइन? अब if your background knowledge in deep learning is very good, your mathematical knowledge is good, होइन? I would focus on small language models. It's how to make small language models as good as large language models. एउटा part भयो, होइन? How to ensure these models can learn from small amount of data. So that's another important point. And third point, say, how do you integrate reasoning into these small language models? Right? So can we build, let's say, 8 billion LLM, which is as good as, let's say, GPT-4o, right? Which can do all the reasoning and everything, but only within an 8 billion parameter model. Right? So I think that's a doable topic because number one, with the 8 billion model, you don't need a massive GPU. You can train it easily on a medium-sized GPU. Right? So that would be one of the topics I would myself be working on in Nepal. Right? So that would be my suggestion. If you're just thinking about applications of AI, then obviously there's a huge number of areas where AI systems can be applied. Right? So depending on your area of interest, you can do that. So I want to take class. Will you teach us? Absolutely. अनि मैले त पढाइ नै रहेको छु, होइन? So हाम्रो मदन भण्डारी युनिभर्सिटी अफ साइन्स एन्ड टेक्नोलोजी चितलाङमा छ र हामीले भर्खरै अस्ति फ्राइडे we onboarded our second batch of students. We teach masters by research in AI and masters by research in data science, 1 year taught program plus followed by 1 year of thesis. And we teaching at the same level or even better than how I was teaching back in UK, right? So you're not going to lose anything by coming to study with us. Data science masters, I think the word is slightly maybe misleading. किनभने data science भनेर आजकलको जमानामा AI use नगर्ने होइन. So I think when we say masters by research in data science, we mean you will be definitely be using lots of AI tools, learning about AI and how to do modern data science. So essentially you'll become an applied AI engineer by doing a master's in data science. On the other hand, if you do a master's by research in AI, we train you to become an AI scientist. And त्यसमा चाहिँ we teach you a lot of mathematical fundamentals. अस्ति भर्खरै I finished teaching Bayesian machine learning. So it has got a lot of stats and probability, होइन? And we cover all the other topics in machine learning as well, right? in which sector AI is going to impact most. I think AI is going to impact every sector. I think then how to join, you just need to look at our website, Manandhar University of Science and Technology, and apply. Maybe you can still join our current batch because we haven't actually started our teaching. Just look at our website, right? Or connect with me on LinkedIn and I can guide you. Hunsa? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. There's one insight on AI and future and prospects in Nepal by Simón, sir. You can definitely get in touch with me, as I wanted the focus to be on Dr. Manandhar. You can get in touch with me through LinkedIn and all that, and I will see what I can do to help anybody who's into this. So you're a thesis topic I was thinking about what you're saying, right? Quantization, your lower rank adaptation using like large model, like 80 billion parameters are like हामीले 4-bit quantize गर्न सक्यो भने र लोअर र्याङ्क एडाप्टेसन गर्यो भने you can use it in a laptop. That's a big अर्को cosine similarities square clustering जुन चाहिँ क्लस्टरिङमा गर्दाखेरि त्यसमा there's also opportunity for that also. अर्को knowledge graphingहरुमा पनि there's a opportunity that's burgeoning as well. नेपालमा चाहिँ गर्न सक्नेहरु those are some of the things that I can think of. Obviously अघि सुरुको प्रेजेन्टेसनमा मैले भने कुराहरु पनि दुई चारवटा कुराहरु छ. Having said that, so there lots of opportunities, lots of things that can be done, and this has been an absolutely fascinating and very welcome conversation on AI and startups in Nepal. And I hope आजको हाम्रो यो कार्यक्रमले हामी जतिजनाले पनि सुन्नुभयो र पछि वेबमा सोशल मिडियामा हेर्नुहुन्छ, यसबाट चाहिँ डाक्टर मानन्दरबाट भ्यालुएबल इन्साइट्स लिएर विजडम लिएर तपाईहरुले जे जसो काम गर्न लागेकोमा त्यसमा मद्दत पुगोस् र फ्युचरमा पनि उहाँलाई पनि कन्ट्याक्ट गर्नुस् र साथसाथै आयोजक भूगोल पार्कलाई पनि कन्ट्याक्ट गर्नुस् के परेमा भन्दै आजको यो मोडरेसनको प्रोग्राम पार्ट अफ द प्रोग्राम यही समाप्त गरेर नमस्कार. म सिमोन ढुङ्गाना. I want to hand over back to Chhatuladarji, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Suresh Manandhar sir, for today's insightful and informative conversation. We all have learned something new from the knowledge and perspective you shared today. मलाई लाग्छ आज हरेक सहभागीले केही न केही नयाँ कुरा बुझ्न, सोच्न र भविष्यका लागि तयारी गर्न प्रेरणा पाउनु भयो होला. साथै आजको एपिसोड सहज रूपमा सञ्चालन गर्नु भएकोमा सिमोन ढुङ्गानालाई म विशेष धन्यवाद दिन चाहन्छु. यहाँ उपस्थित सम्पूर्ण श्रोता, विद्यार्थी, व्यवसाय तथा स्टार्टअप इनोभेटरलाई पनि धन्यवाद दिन चाहन्छु. यदि तपाईलाई आजको एपिसोड उपयोगी लाग्यो भने कृपया अरूलाई पनि जानकारी दिनुहोला. भूगोल पार्कको फेसबुक पेज र अन्य सामाजिक सञ्जालमा हामीलाई फलो गर्नु नबिर्सनुहोला. अर्को साता हामी फेरि फर्किनेछौँ एआई एन्ड साइबर सिक्युरिटी इन नेपाल शीर्षकका साथ, जहाँ दुईजना साइबर सुरक्षा विज्ञहरूसँग हामी वार्ता गर्नेछौँ. अर्को जानकारी म के दिन चाहन्छु भने अघि क्वेसन पनि रेज भएको थियो. हामी चाँडै एआई सम्बन्धी योजना बनाउँदैछौँ. सो हामीसँग जोडिरहनुहोस्. म त्यही अनुरोध गर्न चाहन्छु. अन्त्यमा फेरि एकपटक डाक्टर सुरेश मानन्दर सरलाई हृदयदेखि धन्यवाद दिँदै सबैलाई शुभरात्रि भन्न चाहन्छु. धन्यवाद.
Thank you. Namaste. Bye-bye.